I am a loyal hound adopted by the Liu family, existing for one purpose only, to serve as the bodyguard of the Liu family's young lady, who suffers from selective mutism. So, during the day, I accompany her to school. At night, I coax her to sleep, 24 hours a day. I'm on call whenever she needs me. However, Willow Liu became convinced that I was hopelessly in love with her. She typed to me, "I know you like me, but you don't seriously think doing these cheap little things will win me over, do you? How ridiculous. Stop dreaming about a loser's comeback fantasy." Later, she, who had never spoken a single word, actually spoke to me for the sake of a poor student in our class. She said, "Could you give your scholarship to Makoto? He needs the money more than you do." I didn't dare say a word. I gave it up. After all, I had just secretly taken 10 million from her father. Once the college entrance exam is over, I'll be going abroad to study. As for the money, and her, I won't be greedy for either. Chapter 1. Willow Liu had selective mutism. The Liu family tried every method imaginable, big ones, small ones, throwing money at the problem like water down a drain. Yet nothing could make her speak, until one time, when the Liu family went to an orphanage for a charity event and happened to run into me. I was fighting a whole group of kids much taller than me, all over a single piece of bread, brawling like my life depended on it. Willow saw this and suddenly pointed at me, forcing out a single word, "Help him." Those few short words sent the Liu family into indescribable joy. They immediately completed the adoption procedures. Just like that, I became Willow's study companion. Back then, she was skinny, tiny, and never spoke. At school, some unruly older students tried to flirt with her. When she didn't respond, they decided she was pretending to be aloof and picked an auspicious day to teach her a lesson. Living under someone else's roof, I had to be useful, so I wasn't scared at all. Facing those punks much bigger than me, I looked at them like walking military merit. I snatched a shovel straight out of the hands of a school board member who loved growing vegetables and chased them off. Even after being publicly punished and made to stand, I could still grin and perform a handstand outside the classroom window for Willow. Willow found it embarrassing and tightened her small face, refusing to look at me. After class, she wrote me a note. Ever since the day at the orphanage, she hadn't spoken a single word to me again. She wrote, "I know you like me, but you don't seriously think doing these cheap little things can win me over, do you? This is hilarious. Stop dreaming about some loser's comeback fantasy." No, what the hell? She was a rich young lady. I was basically a servant. If anything happened to her, I'd be finished too. Love and romance. How would I ever dare think about that? But Willow didn't care. She was convinced I liked her to the point of being hopelessly obsessed. So after having a nightmare in the middle of the night, she called me without the slightest guilt and woke me up. Half asleep, suppressing my irritation, I still got up, washed my face, brushed my teeth, and went to her room. The room was pitch dark. Guided by memory, I walked to the bedside. With one hand, I gently covered Willow's eyes. With the other, I reached for the bedside lamp. A few seconds later, I lowered my hand and found Willow's dark eyes staring straight at me. Her face was still a little pale. Her fingers tapped rapidly on her phone screen as she complained at me. "I just had a nightmare and couldn't sleep. I asked you to come read to me for a bit, and you actually brushed your teeth first. What a gross guy. You're overthinking things. I'm warning you, don't get any inappropriate ideas about me." Here we go again. I gave a perfunctory and pulled a book out of the shelf. Halfway through reading, a gust of wind flipped the pages. I looked up and realized the window was open. I stood up and said as I closed it, "Don't open the window so wide at night. Cold drafts can give you a headache." Turning back, I casually tucked the blanket more securely around Willow. She couldn't get sick, otherwise, tomorrow I wouldn't get to tag along to the private tutoring session the Liu family hired for her. That stuff was expensive, 20,000 yuan per class. As I moved, Willow again gave me that strange look, her emotions impossible to read. I asked, "What now?" She wrote, "When it's time to fill out our college applications, I'll allow you to apply to the same university as me." She suddenly brought up the college entrance exam plans for a month later. I didn't react immediately. Willow grew impatient. Her phone nearly got shoved into my face as she wrote, "What? You don't want to? What right do you have not to want to? Being able to study at University C with me is your honor. Don't play hard to get with me. Besides, it's not like you're guaranteed to get into University C anyway." I took a deep breath and gently shook my head. "No, I'm just too excited." Hearing the answer she wanted, Willow let out a soft snort and closed her eyes. Chapter 2. I quietly slipped out of the room and closed the door behind me, only to run into the butler, who had clearly been waiting outside for a long time. He said, "Please." The butler handed me a cup of tea. I took it and immediately recognized the scent. It was the kind of tea the Liu family most often used to entertain guests. Mr. Liu sat across from me, rubbing his temples. The watch on his wrist alone was worth enough to buy an apartment in the most expensive part of the city center. The butler thoughtfully spread out a newspaper for him, smoothing it flat on the coffee table. The headline was eye-catching. Liu family heiress falls for small-time delinquent. Skips classes daily for dates. I was speechless. The truth was, some time ago, Willow Liu had offended the girlfriend of a so-called school tyrant. She was cornered on campus, and I'd helped her escape by climbing over a wall with her. I knew it. The misunderstanding came from Mr. Liu, who had just returned from an overseas business trip. He thought Willow liked me. That wasn't it. Just today, Willow had been planning to kick me into the underachievers class packed with spoiled rich kids, all just to make room in the elite class for a transfer student. The one Willow liked was the transfer student, Makoto, not me, George. But just as I was about to explain, a check was pushed across the table toward me. Mr. Liu spoke in a cold, detached tone. Aside from this small amount of money, once the college entrance exam is over, I'll send you abroad. All expenses will be covered by the Liu family. The price is that you never contact my daughter again. Can you do that? I don't want to see a repeat of scenes like you running into my daughter's room in the middle of the night today. Mr. Liu's gaze was heavy, the pressure subtle but unmistakable. I nodded and said, "Yes, Mr. Liu, I can." I put on a sorrowful expression, trembling as I accepted the check, then staggered unsteadily back toward my room, my steps light and hollow. Chapter 3. Sigh, damn, oh damn, woohoo. 10 million. I got so excited that I did a few squats on the spot and nearly passed out on the floor. Calm down. Life had officially turned into open wilderness now. I sat back down at my desk, thought for a moment, then took out my diary and carefully folded the check inside it. Once I had nothing to do, my mind suddenly wandered back to that promise about going to the same university as Willow. I didn't know why, but I cared about it far more than I should have. Looks like I'd be breaking that promise, though Willow probably wouldn't take it to heart anyway. After all, the way she looked when she had eyes only for someone else was still vivid in my memory, like something straight out of a teen idol drama. A girl strolling through campus, accidentally crashing into a boy's arms. As the boy bent down to pick up the necklace she'd dropped, starlight flickered in Willow's eyes. Her voice trembled as she forced out a sound. Ma. Having not spoken for so long, her throat was hoarse. Embarrassed to the point that the tips of her ears turned red, she awkwardly twisted open the water bottle I'd given her and drank. She moved too fast, too flustered, soaking half her collar. After wetting her throat, she finally said it again. "Makoto, it's you." That very day, a post titled "Willow Spoke" exploded on the campus forum. One student commented, "Holy hell, what kind of medical miracle is this? The iceberg school beauty who's been mute for years speaks the moment she meets the transfer student. What kind of novel setup is this? I'm shipping it already." Another wrote, "Putting myself in George's shoes, your childhood sweetheart never once speaks to you, then opens her mouth for someone else. The sky would literally fall." Someone corrected them. "Let's be accurate, George is just a servant of the Liu family. At best, he's the young lady's bodyguard/study companion." Then someone else added, "I've hated George for ages, walking around with his back so straight every day, like he's some rich heir. Calling him a bodyguard/study companion is generous, he's just a simp." Another comment read, "Girls, who gets this? That satisfying feeling when someone you hate finally gets exposed to everyone. The harder people ship them, the more vicious the attacks on me became." It was bizarre. I asked Willow to have the post deleted, since it was made by one of her gossip-loving close friends. But even though she could clearly speak now, she still chose to type to me, "Makoto just transferred to our school. He needs attention. Being known will make it easier for him to make friends. There's also something I want to tell you. He's actually the older brother who held my hand and escaped with me when I was kidnapped as a child. So what? That means I have to bear all the insults." I was so angry I wanted to slap both of them across the face. But then I remembered I was nothing more than a freeloader living under the Liu family's roof. In a surge of rage, I slammed my phone hard onto the pillow, and just like that, the matter passed. But it stayed lodged in my throat like a bone. Sigh. In the darkness, I opened my eyes. I thought about Mr. Liu's promise to fully fund my studies abroad, and the check tucked inside my diary. My future. It was so bright, I couldn't fall asleep. Chapter 4. The next morning, I headed for the car with massive dark circles under my eyes, ready to go to school. The driver stopped me just in time and said, The young lady asked you to sit in the front passenger seat." I looked at Willow in confusion. She was leaning back in the rear seat, eyes half closed. Warm sunlight slipped through the window, gently brushing over her strikingly beautiful face. In the mornings, she was usually short on sleep. On the way to school, she would always nap, and she'd only feel at ease closing her eyes if I sat beside her, holding her hand. Did she not need me anymore? A guess formed in my mind. Sure enough, the car turned onto an unfamiliar road. It was Makoto. He yanked the door open, ducked inside, and plopped down into the seat without ceremony. In a bright, cheerful voice, he said, "Willow, I brought you breakfast." As he spoke, he stuffed a meat bun into his mouth with great enthusiasm. The smell, trapped inside an air-conditioned car in summer, was anything but pleasant. Having taken care of Willow's daily life for 12 years, I reminded him out of pure habit. Willow, she doesn't really like eating in the car. Really? Makoto raised an eyebrow, then put the bun away. Sorry, I didn't know. Willow, however, shot me an annoyed glare. She thought I was meddling. Reaching out, she took the bun from Makoto's hand and, somewhat stiffly, yet gently, forced out a few words to him. It's not like there are that many rules. I froze, because that very rule was something Willow herself had taught me. Back then, even if I was so hungry my stomach cramped on the way to school, she would only roll her eyes at me and then coldly type on her phone, "You should wake up half an hour earlier to deal with breakfast." Classic double standards. Outside the car window, the glass reflected back. Hey, there's a clown. Chapter 5. The driver kept glancing back at me in shock. I knew exactly what he was surprised by. At first, I hadn't expected it either. That Willow, mute for so many years, would speak the moment she met Makoto, and that she would speak to him alone. How should I put it? It was mentally breaking. Mr. Liu, who had dominated the business world for decades, had actually misjudged things for once. I felt a bit relieved, and a bit guilty. That money was originally meant for Makoto. The smell inside the car grew heavier and heavier. I didn't know if the bun wasn't fresh, but there was a faint raw meat odor mixed in. When Willow tried to take the first bite, she nearly gagged. Yet she still endured the discomfort and finished the bun in her hand. After we got out of the car, Makoto enthusiastically handed me the leftover bun and said, "Bro, you should try it too. It's really good." I instinctively pushed it away. Maybe Willow noticed the slight resistance on my face. She tapped rapidly on her phone, clearly upset, and wrote, "I know you don't like Makoto, but he meant well. Was it really necessary to embarrass him like that? How did you become so ill-mannered? I remember you weren't like this back when you were at the orphanage." Makoto asked with a puzzled look. "Wait, George, are you really like what everyone says?" A guard dog the Liu family adopted for Willow Liu. Completely unaware he had stepped on Willow's landmine. Back in middle school, when a class bully harassed Willow and I blocked him, he pointed at me and cursed me out as a simp and a guard dog. The very next day, his parents showed up and handled his transfer paperwork. No one ever called me that again. My name finally became just that, my name. But this time, Willow said nothing. She simply picked up a tissue and handed it to Makoto. I immediately took the hint and said to Willow, "Sorry, I ate too much this morning. Seeing food makes me nauseous. Starting tomorrow, I'll take the subway." Extra people should know when to step aside. Besides, Willow was already extremely picky about food, and she'd even get angry over what I ate. I'd been craving the snack street outside campus for ages. My classmate said a master-level cook selling scallion pancakes had just arrived there. Yet Willow's expression turned even worse than when she'd just scolded me. She typed out a single line. "No, I don't agree. Proposal rejected." For no apparent reason at all. Chapter 6. After arriving at school, I went to the homeroom teacher's office first to handle the transfer paperwork, then returned to the classroom to clear out my desk. My classmates whispered among themselves. Seeing how Willow used to stick so close to George, I almost thought this kid had actually managed to date her. Someone else said, "Are you blind? Willow sticking to him. Didn't she already get him transferred to that bottom-tier trash class? I heard that class is full of spoiled rich kids who do nothing but clown around. If he transfers there, he'll probably get beaten until he drops out. Serves him right." This morning Makoto brought Willow breakfast, and he butted in saying Willow doesn't like eating in the car. The way he said it, if you didn't know better, you'd think Willow was his girlfriend. Total failed flex. The Liu school beauty didn't even hesitate and ate the breakfast Makoto brought her. What a brain-dead simp. Pure clown behavior. The very next second, smack, Willow slapped that person hard across the face. She stood in front of him, glaring viciously, as if she wanted to bore 2 holes straight through him with her eyes. I truly couldn't understand women. She'd just been belittling me this morning, and now she was pulling this. Forget it. I grabbed Willow by the arm. Big break's about to end. I need to hurry back to my new class. Willow looked up at me. Her pale, jade-like fingers tugged lightly at my sleeve. As always, she typed instead of speaking. She wrote, "The college entrance exam is almost here. You'll only be in class 13 for 1 month. It'll be over quickly. Makoto's foundation is weak. He needs our class's slot to catch up. Your basics are stronger. You'll do fine in any class. After the exam, I'll come find you. After the exam, I'd already be on a flight to the UK, but I didn't say anything. I just looked into Willow's slightly panicked eyes and, like always, tapped her forehead lightly. "All right, I'll wait for you." Sigh. I had to keep acting right up until I left the country. to reinforce Mr. Lu's belief that Willow liked me. Visibly, Willow relaxed. The panic in her eyes turned into joy. She suddenly tiptoed up and gave my cheek a quick kiss. New words appeared on her phone screen. Reward. Chapter 7. Willow followed behind me as I walked. I was thinking that if she followed me into the new class, she'd probably get tangled up again with those spoiled rich kids. And when that happened, the one who'd suffer would still be me. I was just about to tell her to stop following me when suddenly Willow halted, frowned at her phone screen, then turned and ran off at full speed. Fine. Perfect timing. I carried my heavy backpack and stepped into my new classroom. Someone had a cigarette hanging from his mouth. The desks had been completely remodeled into a mahjong table. The air was thick and foul. Even worse, this class had the same school bully Willow had once rejected. That scene back then hadn't been pretty. The bully had harassed her relentlessly, demanding a reason for the rejection. So the next second, Willow hooked her arm through mine. The meaning was obvious. She was using me as a shield. The bully had held a grudge against me ever since. It wasn't that he liked Willow that much. It was just that someone who'd always been arrogant couldn't accept losing to me. By all logic, as the young master of the Bai family, he outclassed me in every possible way. The bully sized me up a few times, then laughed. Looks like the rumors are true. Willow's really sick of you. You dead simp. She doesn't even want to spend one more second with you. He tilted his head and grinned at the guys behind him. What are you standing around for? Take him to the bathroom. I stayed silent. From the last page of my English textbook, I quietly tore off the attached CD and snapped it in half. Chapter 8. A dozen or so minutes later, waves of wailing came from the restroom. At the very least, I used to be the top little demon at the orphanage. I knew a thing or two about fighting. It was just that they had the numbers. I wasn't careful and got a cut near the corner of my eye from a shard of glass. It burned like hell, baring my teeth. I made my way to the school infirmary. When I reached the door, I stopped. White curtains fluttered in the wind. Golden sunlight spilled like drifting sand. A delicate girl frowned slightly as she gently bandaged the wound of a handsome boy. It was nothing more than a shallow scratch, yet Willow's eyes were red, her heart aching as if she were about to cry the next second. I remembered, Willow had always been a germaphobe. Once, when she had a fever, she made a huge fuss about wanting sweet water from the north side of the city. It was raining and the roads were slippery. I accidentally fell and injured my arm. When I asked her to help bandage it, she pouted and looked at me awkwardly. Her hands lifted, then lowered, then lifted. Hesitating, she said, "You know I hate dirty things. Can you rinse it clean first?" Willow really was that clueless, truly heartless. But back when I was exhausted from fighting like a stray dog in the orphanage just to survive, she was the one who truly reached out and pulled me up. A girl as white as snow. Truth was, I really had liked her. Out of nowhere, my emotions collapsed like a landslide. With trembling hands, I squatted by the roadside, feeling tears slide down, mourning a love that never even had the chance to take shape. It hurt so much I felt like I couldn't breathe. So much it felt like I was about to die. But then again, if I died, who would spend that 10 million? I couldn't be that selfish. In extreme sorrow, I wiped at the corner of my eye. Ah, never mind. Not tears, blood. I smacked my lips with lingering regret and stood up, heading back toward the teaching building. Today's dose of self-inflicted melodrama. That's enough for now. Chapter 9. That night, Mr. Lu had gone on another business trip. After piggybacking off Willow's elite private lesson, I went to the bathroom to clean my wound again. When I came out, I realized Willow had somehow entered my room. She was standing by my desk, holding something in her hands. When I saw the notebook she was holding, my heart dropped hard. The check was hidden inside. Had Willow seen it? Was she going to question me? After learning the reason, would she rush to Mr. Lu to explain everything, just to save her father 10 million? Then what about my life, my studies abroad, my future happiness? In an instant, my body went stiff. I walked toward her in a daze, my steps heavy as if my legs had been filled with cement. Hearing the movement, Willow turned around. Her eyes and expression were so cold they seemed to freeze the air. She raised the notebook in her hand. Care to explain? The password used to be my birthday. Why did you change it? Ever since we were little, Willow loved checking my phone and computer, even demanding I change all my passwords to her birthday. She held up her phone, confronting me. Feeling guilty, I snatched the notebook back and said casually, "I felt like changing it, so I did." She typed, "Open it. I want to see." I said, "No." I refused without thinking. Realizing I'd reacted too strongly, I quickly put on a smile for the young lady. "There's really nothing. You don't get it. Some things are special. It's not convenient to show others." She typed, "AMI others?" I was speechless. Willow's expression darkened. I said, "That's not the same thing." I tried to change the subject, intending to toss the notebook onto the bed, but she grabbed my sleeve and wouldn't let go. Holding her phone in one hand, She gripped me tightly with the other, narrowing her eyes as she stared me down. She typed, "You wrote something new in there that even I'm not allowed to see. You're definitely hiding something. What if I insist on seeing it?" I was at a loss. At this critical moment, inspiration struck. Actually, I secretly stuck your photos in there." My voice was barely audible, like I'd been exposed for harboring some deeply buried, filthy thoughts. I lowered my head in extreme shame. A cold snort came from in front of me. Willow wore a smug "I knew it" expression. She typed, "Figures. I should have guessed you had inappropriate thoughts about me. What else could be in your diary besides fantasizing about me? Forget it. I'll settle accounts with you later. Clean up first. I want you to take me somewhere in a bit. After I finished getting ready, I wheeled my bike outside and saw Willow standing under a tree, her toes absent-mindedly tapping at the patches of moonlight leaking through the leaves. So late at night, what did she want to do? Chapter 10. She typed, "Why are you spacing out? Didn't you say you wanted to take me to see the sea?" Seemingly embarrassed, Willow quickly turned off her phone screen, looked away, and sat sideways behind me. My mind wandered as I pedaled along the bike path. Willow's hands lightly tugged at the fabric on both sides of my waist. As we got closer to the sea, the wind brushing against my face turned salty and damp, but it wasn't unpleasant. On the contrary, it felt incredibly comfortable. The road was uneven. After a bump, Willow swayed. Her body tilted forward uncontrollably, and she instinctively hugged me tightly. My heart skipped a beat. The doubts in my head only grew. What exactly was Willow plotting today? Soon, the answer revealed itself. I stopped the bike. Willow jumped off. Not far away on the beach, a dining table suddenly lit up. Warm yellow light slowly spread through the night, softening even the sea breeze. Willow lifted her skirt and jogged over, then turned back and waved at me. I froze for a second. By the time I followed her, she was already holding a small plate with an exquisitely made cake. Willow suddenly spoke to me. "George, happy birthday. Today was my birthday." If she hadn't said it, I would have completely forgotten. The candles were already lit. Across the candlelight, I met Willow's sparkling peach blossom eyes. For a moment, I felt dazed, but urged by her, I closed my eyes to make a wish. I thought, after I finish my wish, I'll tell Willow that I like her. The kind of liking where no matter how willful or dramatic she is, I still find her adorable. Lately, my heart had been aching non-stop, and I'd been numbing myself with money. Now, I didn't want that 10 million anymore. I wanted our 12 years together. This must be what they call love stronger than gold. But before I could open my eyes, Willow's cool voice rang out. She said, "Are you satisfied now? So can you return the scholarship to Makoto? He needs that money more than you." Holy shit. I opened my eyes. My first thought, Willow spoke to me. My second thought, no wonder AI can't replace humans. Just now I'd been acting on impulse. 10 million gone just like that. Am I not supposed to live anymore? Willow said sarcastically. "From childhood till now, 12 years, you've always said you wished I'd say, 'Happy birthday,' to you, right? Well, today I said it. How was it? Did you like it? Or do you want me to say it more gently?" She looked indignant. "And I already agreed to go to the same university as you. What more do you want? Besides, all these years you've been adopted by the Liu family, living in a villa, riding luxury cars. Isn't that glamorous enough? Do you really have to fight Makoto over that 8,000 yuan scholarship?" She kept rambling on. A mute finally speaking, cut her some slack. I nodded along as I listened. Even took the time to blow out the candles, cut the cake, and handed her a slice topped with strawberries. I said, "Maybe it's because you haven't spoken in so long, your voice sounds a bit stiff. Want some cream to smooth your throat?" She snapped, "George, stop playing dumb. I meant well." But Willow thought I was provoking her. With a flick of her hand, the cake smashed against the glass and slid down, leaving a mess everywhere. She froze for a moment, looking a bit awkward, then accused me, "You're the one who made me angry first." I looked at Willow and thought she was basically a little angel. Every time I started doubting whether I was some faithless jerk who abandoned a bond for money, she would personally prove to me, "You made the right choice." Scratching my head, I said, "Actually, after the scholarship list was announced, I already filled out the withdrawal form. I'll hand it to the director tomorrow. That way, Makoto, who ranked 4th, could move up. After all, I'd already taken his 10 million. Willow's expression immediately cleared, her eyes sparkling with starlight. She nodded in satisfaction, then smoothly changed the subject. "Don't be mad at Makoto either. Honestly, you should thank him. He encouraged me to actively communicate with the people around me. Without him, I still wouldn't be able to talk to you. Wasn't hearing my voice what you wanted most? I promise you, from now on, I'll speak to you. Consider it your birthday present." No, seriously, why does she only give me such worthless things? I spent all that time hoping she'd speak, and somehow it turned into her talking being a gift to me. What an idiot. Chapter 11. A month's time, neither long nor short. In the blink of an eye, more than half of it was gone. I gradually got familiar with my deskmate, Chubby. Chubby and I got along well because I shared my snacks with her every day. Like me, she was also planning to go abroad to get some gold-plated credentials, and we discussed precautions and preparations for studying overseas many times. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at me and said, "It's salted egg yolk chicken wings, thanks, George." The cafeteria auntie's hands shook like they were glitching when they served food, and Chubby often didn't get enough to eat, so I'd regularly share some of mine with her. But today, just as I handed the chicken wings to Chubby, a hand suddenly reached out, yanked the tray away from in front of me, and dumped it straight into the slop bucket without a word. She said, "George, who gave you permission to eat with another girl here?" Willow bit her lip, her face full of resentment as she swept her gaze over Chubby, then landed it on me. Her tone was sharp with displeasure. "The college entrance exam is almost here, and you're still flirting with girls. If you don't get into University C, don't expect me to wait while you repeat a year. Come with me." Willow grabbed my arm and tried to drag me away, but Makoto stopped her, annoyed. Willow snapped, "Move, you're so annoying." It was rare for Willow to lose her temper with Makoto, but the very next second, she regained her composure. She took a breath, lowered her voice, and said, "Sorry, Makoto, I'm in a bad mood today. I just want to ask George something. Can you wait for me for a bit?" Makoto scratched his head and said, "No, I wasn't trying to stop you. I just wanted to ask, if you're not eating it, can you give the meal to me?" His eyes were fixed tightly on the tray. I was speechless. At that moment, I seriously started wondering, did Makoto really just say whatever popped into his head? Was that time he called me out actually a genuine question? Sure enough, Willow choked on her words for a second. Before leaving, she pushed her own tray toward Makoto and said, "Eat." Chapter 12. Once we left the cafeteria, Willow couldn't wait to interrogate me. "George, aren't you disgusting?" I felt like her temper was even more incomprehensible than the final big question on a math exam. After thinking for a moment, I asked, "What did I do?" Willow rubbed her face in frustration and snapped, "What did you do? You tell me what you did. We're at the final critical stretch, and you're still acting improper, flirting with some girl. You even have to stick together while eating. Do you know the forum's already saying you two are together? I guess you must be desperate, someone of that quality, and you can still bring yourself to go for it. What kind of nonsense was that?" Lately, thanks to Chubby's loud morning reading, I'd been sleeping much better during early study sessions, so I replied without thinking, "She's my friend. I won't let you talk about her like that." Willow was even more displeased. "You're actually defending her now. I didn't come here today to listen to you praise some great friendship," she said. "Keep your distance from other girls. Did you hear me? George, stop picking your nose. I'm talking to you." "Fuck, so now you're really showing off that you can talk, huh?" I said slowly. "I'll say it one more time. Chubby is my friend." I met Willow's gaze and enunciated every word. "Miss Lou, from the time I was little until now, I've followed you around like a shadow. My whole world was you and the Lou family. I barely even had friends. That's why so many people say I'm just a guard dog raised by the Lou family. You know that, don't you? But I never took those words to heart. And yet you actually think I'd care about what the forum says about me? That's ridiculous. So please, don't interfere with who I choose to be friends with." "You think I'm interfering with you?" Willow's gaze turned colder and colder. She lifted her chin and said, "Fine, then go make your friends. You don't seriously think North City only has one top-tier university, do you? Until you admit you're wrong. I'm not telling you which school I'm applying to." She threw out those words like a threat and turned away in anger. What she didn't know was, at this point, I no longer cared which university she was going to. Chapter 13. When I returned to the classroom, Chubby had already moved away from my seat. When our eyes met, she avoided my gaze, looking full of guilt. It wasn't what she wanted either, but she was afraid of provoking Willow. I understood. Losing a friend like that put me in a slump for a while, but I quickly pulled myself together and threw myself back into studying. After all, the better my college entrance exam results were, the easier it would be for Mr. Lou to pave the way for me abroad. By the day of the exam, Willow was still angry. She sat in the car, watching me coldly. Just as I grabbed the door handle, she suddenly told the driver to drive. I almost got dragged down, choking on exhaust fumes. What a schemer. She really had the patience to wait just to get back at me like this. I decisively took out my phone and called a taxi. Later, after the exams ended, I couldn't really say why, but I deliberately slowed down while packing my bag, stalling for an extra 5 minutes. "Let's go. It's time to head to the airport," the secretary reminded me. I nodded. Outside the school, a crowd of reporters had surrounded Willow and Makoto for interviews. After all, handsome guy, beautiful girl, perfect clickbait for the internet. As the car passed by, Willow caught sight of me. She rolled her eyes, then hooked her arm around Makoto's and smiled shyly at the cameras. Yes, she said softly. He's my boyfriend. I smiled faintly and mouthed the words, congratulations. After this, we won't be seeing each other again. Willow. Extra, Willow. In Willow's memory, George had loved her desperately. Even when pretty girls wrote him love letters and confessed to him, George would look at her, then politely refuse with an apologetic face. Sorry, I have someone more important to take care of. If that wasn't love, then what was? Until the first time George snapped at her, for that girl. Why? Willow couldn't swallow that anger, so she deliberately didn't go looking for George after the exam. Instead, she admitted she was with Makoto right in front of him. Did she really like Makoto? Don't be ridiculous. Willow knew very well, she only saw Makoto as an older brother. But as long as it made George feel bad, that was enough. What expression did he have back then? A brief moment of stunned silence, like he'd been hit hard, yet he still forced a smile and congratulated her. If he truly meant it, he wouldn't have rolled up the car window afterward, would he? George must regret it to death. It's fine. Let him stew for a couple of days. He definitely won't be able to take it and will come apologize to her. Thinking of that diary filled with records about herself, Willow covered her mouth and laughed softly. Extra too. Willow felt that the punishment she'd given George was far too mild. So on the very day the college entrance exam ended, she didn't go home. Instead, she traveled to Japan with Makoto. She carefully selected many photos. Every single post was a 9-photo grid, each one a picture with Makoto, the deer in Nara, Universal Studios, Kasuga Taisha. But after posting for 3 straight days, the pinned chat avatar remained silent. George, wasn't this playing hard to get a bit too much? Willow pressed her lips together. The fingers gripping the edge of her phone tightened until they hurt. A heavy knot of frustration settled in her chest. She muttered to herself, unpin, block. If he didn't cherish the chance she gave him to apologize, then he'd better not regret it. Extra 3. The 5th day. When Makoto fed her a bun again, Willow instinctively wanted to refuse, but then she seemed to think of something. She took out her phone, her beautiful peach blossom eyes curving into a smile. As she pressed the shutter, she leaned in, parted her red lips, and bit into the bun Makoto was holding out to her. The sweetness was off the charts. That night, she pulled George out of her blacklist. No, wait, she had to post an update first. So she put George back on the blacklist again, edited her post, hit send, and after half an hour, she removed him from the blacklist once more. After finishing everything, Willow lazily tapped her cheek with her fingertip. These days, without seeing her, George must be freaking out. She closed her eyes, quietly waiting for George's message bombardment. But the phone notification didn't vibrate nonstop like she'd expected. What the hell? She couldn't hold back anymore. Fine, she'd be generous this time and give George a break. She'd lower her head just this once. The next second, Willow viciously flung her phone away. The screen cracked into a spider web, shattering as it smashed against the floor. That glaring red exclamation mark burned itself into her mind like red paint. George. How dare he? How dare he delete her as a friend? Something must have happened. With trembling hands, Willow booked the fastest flight back home. Extra 4. Willow got home in the middle of the night. The first thing she did was rush into George's room. Empty. So empty it was as if no one had ever lived there. Right. How could she have forgotten? George had been adopted by the Liu family when he was young. The contract back then clearly stated that once he reached adulthood, he had to leave. Then, it had to be Pablo Liu, that damn old man, who had kicked George out. Furious and panicked, Willow raised her hand and banged hard on Pablo's bedroom door. The door opened. With red-rimmed eyes, she shouted, "You kicked George out." Pablo looked coldly at his daughter's outburst. In a low voice, he said, "Go back to sleep." But Willow grabbed at his clothes, completely losing control. "I'm asking you, where did you send George?" The butler, head lowered, stepped forward to explain. George accepted 10 million from President Liu and went abroad for further studies. Back then, President Liu gave him 2 choices, you or 10 million. George chose 10 million. Willow slapped the butler hard across the face, her voice trembling. "You're lying. How much George loves me, I know that better than anyone. You must have forced him to leave." Pablo straightened his wrinkled pajamas, frowned, and said to the butler, "Go get that checked at the hospital. Deduct the cost from my account. For the next couple of days, you don't need to come in." Then he looked at Willow, took out his phone, and dialed George's number. His tone was flat and emotionless. "If you want to know, then listen for yourself." The phone rang. Only 2 seconds passed, but Willow had never felt so nervous in her life. The call connected. George's bright, easygoing voice came through the receiver. "What's up, Uncle Liu?" Pablo Liu chuckled lightly. "Nothing much. You're in Chicago, settling in okay." George replied. Yeah, I'm adjusting well. Everything's good. Thanks to the teachers you introduced me to. Uncle Lou, I'll be enrolling soon. Willow snatched the phone, disbelief flooding her voice. George, what do you mean by that? Did my dad force you to leave? You didn't actually want that 10 million, did you? Stop playing dead, say something. As long as you say you like me, I'll go find you. There were 2 seconds of silence on the line. Then his voice came again. No, Willow, I took the money on my own initiative. And I left you on my own initiative. No one forced me. Willow refused to accept it and pressed on, her voice shaking. But didn't you always like me? Ever since before? George replied calmly. Anyone, when offered an astronomical salary, will do their duty and satisfy the employer's requirements. Willow's voice trembled. So you're saying, to you, I was just an employer? George sighed softly. Don't make a scene. It's late. Get some rest. I'm very satisfied with my life right now. The unspoken message was clear. Don't come and disturb his life. Willow clenched the phone, tilting her head back. The harsh overhead light pierced through the gaps between her fingers, stabbing at her eyes. She raised her hand and covered her eyes with the back of it. She laughed, and as she laughed, tears suddenly spilled out. So that was it. George had never liked her at all.